Hello friends, welcome to Top of the Stack MTG. So today we've got a very fun day. We're talking about basically the top 12 cards that we wish would be released in the new cards that are coming out for Explorer on Arena. I don't really know what to call it because they're doing just these weird random collection of cards, which is sort of understandable because they want to get Pioneer running as much as they can. I don't really agree with the way they're doing that, and I'll talk about that throughout the video. But yeah, this should be a fun list. This is and most of these cards are not going to be released in this initial bundle. They have announced that they're going to kind of cater towards spikes. They're going to try to get the more competitive stuff released first, so that's their goal. So we know that most of these probably won't be there, but that doesn't mean people don't want them, of course. They've also stated that they're going to try to get all of Pioneer in there. So we'll see. Hopefully we get all these cards eventually. All right, so first up on our list is basically a run of lands from M15. The one I have pulled up is Battlefield Forge. And I should do a quick disclaimer here. There could be mistakes in this. It is possible that this is already available on Arena, that it was reprinted somewhere and I don't realize that it's reprinted or whatever. If you catch mistakes in these cards, like, hey, that's banned or that's already on there or whatever, just let me know, okay? Good, but for this one, Battlefield Forge, I think this is a run of lands that we don't have yet for Explorer. This one says tap, add one to your mana pool, and it's colorless. So it doesn't come in tapped, which is great, but it also doesn't tap for a specific color. It's colorless. But it also says you can tap for one of two colors and take 1 damage, which I think is really cool. It doesn't come in tapped, so you can use it immediately, and it fixes your colors. Now, you take a tiny bit of damage, so, but I think it's worth it. I think this is a really neat set of lands. I think they released 5 different color pairs so far in this. So hopefully we get more of these, and hopefully we get these soon. So that's kind of our first entry into the list. Next up is Monastery Mentor. I really love this card. But I love prowess, I love that kind of stuff, and I think it's really cool that this person has prowess, but also, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get to make another person who has prowess, which is really great. So, this is an awesome card. I hope that we get it soon, because I'd love to start playing around in that area. And some of these cards, honestly, might not just be casual. It's possible that some of these cards are going to end up being in Tier 1 decks, or already are in Tier 1 decks, which is just fine. So we might get a couple of these that are on the list in their initial release. But I'm not sure. Good. Okay. Super fun card. All right. Next up is Descent of the Dragons. So this card, Dana put it together in kind of a 1/1 deck. Like, she would just make tons of tokens and then slam down this card and change them all to 4/4 dragons and just win the game. We named it the M. Night Shyamalan deck because of the twist at the end. And of course, this is a casual deck, right? If they wipe your board or some other crazy thing, this isn't ever going to work, right? Or they just counter Descent of the Dragons, right? But it's so fun when it does work. It's a casual deck. And Arena, as we've said a few times already, doesn't have the best way to play casual Magic. It's very difficult. And that's sort of reflected in these weird 20 cards that are things that Spikes really love. And I don't mind Spikes getting cards that they need at all. But I do believe that also Tammy Timmy's and Jenny Johnnies should get what they need as well, you know. It should be more of a blend. They really cater to spikes on Arena, which is strange to me because spikes aren't even the most profitable group. But that's what they do, so it's okay. Yeah, so this is a fun card. I hope they release it soon so that we can give it a try and just have some fun play that isn't so competitive, you know what I mean? All right, so next up, what do we got? Oh, speaking of dragons, a Tarker World Render. So I love the dragons that came out in Fate Reforged, that came out in Cons, and also Dragons of Tarkir. Amazing. You can build amazing dragon decks with them. And we have good dragons now, you know, but to specifically be able to build just an awesome dragon deck, I feel like getting these would be really helpful. So this is a card I really love. And another disclaimer here that I should point out, we started buying at Core 2015. And that's when Frontier started. Now, when Wizards made it Pioneer, they backed it up 2 years. We don't have a lot of experience with the 2 years before 2015. So there aren't going to be, I don't think there's any cards from those two blocks, Theros and Ravnica, before this. And I'm sure there's amazing cards in those, right? So I should just say we want all of the Pioneer cards. We want them all, of course. But we don't have a lot of experience with those, so there's not going to be any representation for those on this list. Good. Tarker, awesome card. This needs to be released so that dragon decks can kind of become a thing. And they won't be tier 1. They'll be tier 2 probably because they're pretty dang good, but they're fun. They're like dinosaur decks, right? Okay, Reflector Maids. Now this one might see some play. I was kind of surprised to see that this card wasn't banned, to be honest with you, because it feels bad, right? It doesn't break the game, but it really feels bad. When Reflector Mage enters the battlefield, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. That creature's owner cannot cast spells with the same name as that creature until your next turn. So literally, you put it back in their hand, you smash in for a bunch of damage, you pass the turn, and they can't cast it again. It has to sit in their hand. And if they have more than one of them in their hand, it's even worse. Or if it's the only card in their hand, this card can induce some rage. But we hope we see it again because it's fun and weird and it's cool. All right, next up, Startled Awake. Startled Awake is a mill card, okay? And there are people who like to play mill strategy. I'm glad that it's not the dominant strategy. But I picked this card because I love, it's kind of complex. It's an interesting way to play mill. When you first play it, it costs 4, and it says, target opponent puts the top 13 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Then you can spend 5 and put Startled Awake from your graveyard onto the battlefield, transformed. Activated only when it's a sorcery. So, when you play it, you mill 13 and it goes in your graveyard. Then, if you have enough mana or the next turn, you can pay 5 and you can flip it over and pull it back out. And it becomes this Persistent Nightmare. Persistent Nightmare has Skulk. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, and it's a 1/1. So literally only 1 power cards can block it. When it deals combat damage to the player, return it to its owner's hand. So you've got this mill 13 cards, which is crazy good, but you can get it back if you jump through some hoops. And I think that's really a neat kind of more interactive way for mill players to be more involved, you know, because mill is a fine strategy. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if you're milling quickly It really is horrible when people have no win con. They just counter everything you play. But they say, I'm just milling you one card at a time because you draw one card per turn, right? That's not a mill deck. And that doesn't fly in any kind of a competitive area because the games are timed. And I'm probably going to end up making another video about how best of one ranked should have a timer. Because best of 3 ranked has a timer. If you don't win in time, you lose, right? That's how it works. And it doesn't have to be in play mode. In play mode, if you want to mill somebody one card at a time, fine, go for it, right? They can just blow up. It's fine. But in ranked mode, you need a timer, right? You can't just play, you don't get to do anything, because nobody likes that. Players don't like it. Wizards doesn't like it. But that's a side thing. Never mind. So, this is just a neat, fun, weird way to make mill more interesting and strange. And I really like that. So, we threw this in there. What else we got? Jeskai Ascendancy. This card is awesome. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 till the end of the turn. And you untap those creatures. So if they have prowess, they already got +1/+1. But if you have this out as well, they get another +1/+1. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, which is just great. This card is amazing. It's probably top tier, I assume. So there's a chance we're going to see it, I guess, which is great because it's super fun. Yeah. Jeskai Ascendancy. Okay. Chandra. So I grabbed Chandra, but really, all of these Origin flip planeswalkers are so fun and weird. I wish we had them. Okay, there's 5 of them total. I don't know if I can name them. We got Chandra, Jace, Liliana, Gideon, maybe? And then, what color am I missing? Oh, Nissa. I'll bet it's those 5. They're monocolored, and they're awesome. We should have all of these. You know, they come on before they got their spark, and they do something wacky, and then they flip over like they got their spark. It's totally fun. We should have all of these. The flip side of this one is called Chandra Roaring Flame. It's cool. We need these. Next up, Thing in the Ice. So Thing in the Ice is awesome. It's another flip card. It's Defender 0/4. It costs 2. Thing in the Ice enters the battlefield with 4 ice counters on it. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, remove an ice counter from Thing in the Ice. Then if it has no ice counters on it, transform it. And it becomes Awakened Horror, which is super fun. It's very cool. This is probably also in a top tier deck, so we're probably going to see it. And I don't know if Thing in the Ice in those decks will be the most fun to play against. But in a casual deck where you're just trying to get it to flip over so you can get in with your 7/8, I think it's a ton of fun. It's going to be an amazing card. And I do hope it's in there. And there's a chance it will be because I think it's competitive. Next up, Fleetwheel Cruiser. So this is kind of a big one. So Wizards of the Coast have been toying with how to put old cards on Arena, which to me is completely insane, because they of all people should know that they can sell Magic cards on Arena. It's not a big deal, you know. If they released old sets, people would buy them. They could just release them backwards. Just be like, here's a new set. Oh, and here's an old set going backwards. So it just goes like this, right? They could do that. No trouble at all. They could release 5 at once. Here's 5 old sets. Bam! We didn't even pick an order. We just grabbed this one and this one and this one or whatever. Here's 5 old sets. Now they're in there. Here's a $50 bundle for each of them. Whatever. right? They can sell old cards. They don't need to... Well, what they did in this case is they took... The Kaladesh block had 2 sets. And they were both well designed for draft. It worked beautifully. They're amazing sets. They paid people a lot of money to design them and get them together and get them going. And then they decided for what they're going to do in Arena, they decided to pay a bunch of people to sit in a room and remove some cards from this side and remove some cards from this side, squish them together to make one draftable big set, which is the dumbest idea I've ever heard, because they lost so much money paying all those people to debate all this junk just to try to make a draftable set when they literally could have just released the block and let us draft it. Now, of course, people will say, yeah, but when you get the second set in there, you only get 2 packs of the one set and 1 pack of the other set, la la la. You know, and there are better solutions, right? Like, straight up, what if they just gave you, what if they made it cost $2 more to draft, and they gave you 6 packs? 3 of one set, 3 of the other, right? Now, you don't get a draft with all those sets. You would have to choose, do I want to draft just the first set, or do I want to draft the second set, which basically turns into 2 of 1? And whichever one you choose, the other packs go into your packs. Like, that's it, right? That's an incredibly easy solution to this problem. Or, if they wanted to go even easier, they could just say, you get 1 pack, if you're drafting, you get 1 pack of the first set, and you get 3 packs of the second set, right? This one just goes into your packs, so you end up like this. And I don't think that's the best solution, because people might want to draft the first set. I think you should be able to draft both. But that's a solution that is much better than paying a bunch of people to redesign 2 sets into 1 set. That was just insanity. And now we're missing cards. We're missing cards like Fleetwheel Cruiser. This was literally the first vehicle that anybody saw. This is the card that they were like, and we're now going to have vehicles. And they put up Fleetwheel Cruiser. It's awesome. It's amazing. Vehicles are successful. They did well. And this one looks extremely cool. To not include this one, I mean, that's just an indication to me of how wrong it can go to say, well, we're not going to release them all. And they also stated that most of it, that what they're getting rid of is just the draft chaff. We're just getting rid of the stuff that nobody cares about. This is not something that nobody cares about at all. This is a perfectly fine vehicle. It has trample, it has haste. When it enters the battlefield, it becomes an artifact creature until the end of the turn. It's practically busted, it's so good, right? It takes 2 to crew it. This is amazing in a vehicle deck. And when I say vehicle deck, I don't mean a vehicle deck. I don't mean a deck that has 1 vehicle that's totally busted that everybody's running and a bunch of other just really good cards. I mean a vehicle deck, right? A deck with a bunch of vehicles in it, maybe a little bit of removal. But in a vehicle deck, this is essential. This is your finisher, basically. This is how you smash in and win the game, even though the vehicle dies. Right? So that choice was just insanity to me, to combine the 2 sets instead of just releasing the 2 sets. Right? And they said 2 more things. Number 1, they said it's really hard to put cards into Arena, which is insanity because Yu-Gi-Oh! Just released and it opened with 10,000 cards in it. A company with the resources that Wizards of the Coast has should not say it's hard to make cards. That's just insanity. Right? That's crazy. And then also they put out an article where they were like, we are so surprised that this actually made money. When we put those two sets together and spent all of that money to get it all together, get it all programmed in, we were surprised that we made money. That's crazy, right? To pretend that you didn't know you could sell Magic cards is just beyond me. It's crazy. But that's probably too much. Sorry. This is a fun card. This should be released. It probably won't be in the next bunch, but I really hope that it is. Good. Okay. Next up, Tree of Perdition. This is an awesome, weird card. So, Dana built a deck where she puts -1/-1 counters on her own creatures or other creatures in order to kind of win the game. She uses them as removal. She also uses special powers that she can receive by putting -1/-1 counters on her own creatures. In this case, this has Defender. It's a 0/13, which is great. And then you can tap it, and then you can exchange target opponent's life total with the Tree of Perdition's toughness. So you could tap this and make your opponent a 13. But if you dump a bunch of -1/-1 counters on it, you can tap it and make them a 3, right? Or a 5. It's an awesome, fun, weird card. This totally should be available for people to play with on Arena. It's a great one. Good. And last but not least, Monastery Swiftspear. I love this card. When we got back into Magic in 2015, this is the card that I really latched on to. This was my favorite card. I've got a signed copy of the art. I just love the card. I love everything about it. It's got haste. It's got prowess. It costs 1. It's a 1/2. It's kind of broken. Not broken to the point that it needs to be banned, but it's a really good card. And there's a chance that it will be in the bundle because it's also very competitive. I think that that red burn deck with the God and the land and Monastery Swiftspear, I think a lot of that stuff is going to be in this initial release because that deck is suffering the most right now. It's just not present in the competitive meta, right? So since they're catering to Johnnies, catering to Spikes, we'll probably have, I hope, maybe like 6 top-tier decks that are all just going at it, because that's a very healthy competitive meta. You know what I mean? As a casual player, it can get a little boring seeing those same decks over and over again. But as a competitive player, that's really good because normally it's like 2 or 3. It's really difficult to create enough balance without kind of really manhandling the sets you're releasing. It's really difficult to create a nice balance between a wide range of decks. You know, Wizards of the Coast says that they don't like to know the outcome of the sets they create. They want us to figure it out. And I don't know how effective or responsible that is with the internet today, because it honestly gets figured out in like 20 minutes. Although, I must say, that's actually not really true. Every once in a while, there'll be a surprise. You know, every once in a while, a month into a meta, a new deck will just explode out of nowhere. It's not very common, but it does happen. So I think it's an interesting approach. I like it better than just saying, here are the 5 competitive decks. We've tested them to death with the best players in the world. You will never make anything that's better than these 5. So buy one of the 5 and just go play Magic. I don't want that at all. I at least want the possibility, no matter how slim, that a new deck might come out of nowhere, or that even a deck that I create could be actually really competitive. You know what I mean? We want that illusion. I don't know how true it is, but I do want the illusion. So I like the way Wizards does it, even though it gets solved really fast most of the time. I don't mind it, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But Monastery Swiftspear, excellent card. Excellent card. I do hope that we get more casual cards that we can all play with, rather than just the same decks over and over again. You know, because we don't need to change the competitive play. It's fine. It's great that Pioneer has, I don't know, 5 or 6 decks that the Spikes play, and they compete with each other, and we see who wins, who's the best player, and who found the one weird card that made it work. You know what I mean? That's fine. But we also need the casual play. Casual play makes more money, as Wizards has stated. They make more money off casual players than they do off of Spikes. And it creates more community, I believe. You know, it's hard right now to do deck techs for Arena because the decks kind of lose. You know, it's weird. You can't go to play mode and play them because if you've been playing Arena for a while, you're going to go up against the top tier decks. You can't go to ranked because you're going to go up against the top tier decks. You know, there isn't really a place, and it's a weird subject, and I'm gonna save it for another video. I do wish we had more casual play. Excellent. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this list. I hope we get a lot of these cards because they're super fun. A lot of these cards you can actually see in our earlier deck techs. If you go back through the channel, they were back when it was paper, right? Because Arena wasn't really up and going yet. But you can see these cards and kind of how they work together with other cards, but you can't see any gameplay. In the future, if we get these cards, we'll do new deck techs so we can actually put them out there and see how they interact together and how they work. So it's fun. I'm glad they're releasing more cards. I wish they did it a lot faster. And I wouldn't mind the 15 card thing if Wizards was saying, we're going to release 15 cards a week because we need to get a bunch of cards pumped into Pioneer on Arena. 15 cards a week would be amazing, you know. But 15 cards in a month and a half, I don't know. I'm like, seriously? Why don't you just do 2 years worth of cards in a month and a half and release them? You know, people are like, well, we might get behind. No, you'll be just fine. You can spend your wild cards on them, you know, honestly, or you might have to spend a little bit of money if you want to truly be ahead of the game, or just take a little while. Draft the sets, have some fun with just the sets alone, then go into Pioneer, you know. There's, yeah, they need to get these cards out. All right, thank you. Have a great day.